All right, folks, we are back with part 4. And in this part, I'm going to talk about a technique that I've heard referred to as backwards triplets, or that I call upstroke triplets. Either or is fine. And I want to point out that my way of doing this that I'm about to show you is not the only way of doing it, and I will talk about a couple other things at the end. But what this is I'm going to play a normal triplet rhythm, which normally starts on a downstroke, so you have down, back, up, down. I'm going to play that same rhythm, but I'm going to start it on an upstroke. So my sticking is going to be up, down, back, up. So instead of down, back, up, down, it's going to be up, down, back, up. And so what this allows you to do is to put a triplet rhythm in a location in the metric scheme or whatever you're doing where a triplet normally wouldn't be possible without either setting it up with a double down or without coming out using a double down to get out of it. So, for example, if we had just 4 eighth notes and a downbeat, we would normally be able to put a triplet on the first eighth note or the third eighth note. Or the third. Or both. But we couldn't put a triplet on the second or fourth eighth note because those are ups. Those are upstrokes in that metric scheme. So what this technique allows you to do is to put a triplet rhythm in those locations without having to use a double down, which for me means that I can play them at a faster speed without having to set up for it. So the pattern that you have on your sheet there on the third page is, I don't know, I guess this must just be a funk pattern I just wrote to show you how this works. So I'll just roll through it a couple times. So you can hear that's with just playing with no voicing, and now if I wanted to voice it, so you can hear how that's applicable. If I wanted to do a normal triplet in that location, I would have to go down, triple it, and then do another double down to get back to the second bar. So that's an option. I can do it at that speed. So there's a double down here, and then a second double down there. So 2 double downs just to get 1 triplet in, or I can do an upstroke triplet to get the same thing without having to do the double down. So I'll just kind of go back and forth. Here's with the double down. Now with my thing. So you can hear the very subtle sound difference, but basically the rhythm is the same. So that's what I would use this for. In triple time, what this allows you to do is to put ornaments on the second, fourth, and sixth eighth notes, where normally you would have to put it on the first, third, and fifth, or conversely, if you want to think about it this way, in order to get ornaments on the second, fourth, and sixth eighth notes, normal downstroke triplets, you would have to start the 6/8 pattern with an upstroke. Right? Or you would have to do a double down. But with this technique now you can put it in without interrupting the sort of alternating flow of the rhythm, of the sticking. and putting the triplet on the 6th, 8th note is the one that I by and far do the least. So maybe don't worry about that one so much. I put a little note here. If you notice on the second pattern, where the ornament is on the 4th, 8th note, that if you look at the sticking of that second pulse, up, down, back, up, that is the same sticking as my up, down, 5-stroke roll from a bunch of videos, just with the notes spaced out. So up, down, back, up, down. So let me speed it up now. You might also notice that that's the same sticking for the triplet on the 5th, 8th note if you were using normal, just normal sticking, no interesting technique. So you'd have down, up, down, back, up. All three of those patterns have exactly the same sticking. All we're doing is redistributing where the long and short notes are. So, something just interesting to note there. You can actually play a 7-stroke roll version of this technique just by throwing 2 of them together. And so the last line that I have on that sheet there is an exercise that you can work on that, that you can use to work on that. So what you'll see there is you have a down, 2 backwards triplets, which brings you out on an upstroke. So you're going to play upstrokes for a second. So that takes you to the downbeat of the 3rd bar. And so after that up, then you have 2 normal downstroke triplets, and that brings you back to down. So this exercise alternates between going up and down. So that's a technique that you can use to work on that. You'll notice there down at the bottom of the sheet, I've got 3 other techniques that could all be considered backwards triplets. I don't use any of them, but they're all unique to the players that use them. Tommy Hayes's is based on his idea of down and back. So you would have down, up, back, and I don't play with his technique, so I won't try to butcher it here. If you look for a YouTube user named Spotless Shadow, he's got a video on backwards triplets that he uses a unique sticking. He uses up, back, down, and then finishes with an up. I tried to mess around with that technique a little bit. I couldn't really get anywhere with it myself, so I don't use it, but he actually sounds pretty good with it, so more power to him. And then if you guys are familiar with Martin Lawler, he's got a number of videos on YouTube. I think his triplet technique could be considered a backwards triplet as well, but I haven't tried to figure out what he's doing, and I haven't seen him play live, so it's a little difficult. But I think his very idiosyncratic technique would be considered a backwards triplet too. So that's all the videos for today. If you guys have any questions, put them up. Let's keep talking about it, and we'll keep throwing stuff up as I get ideas. See ya.